You're waking up, and you feel emptier than ever. What an irony, right? They sold you the idea that once you opened your eyes, everything would make sense. But it didn't. Now you see everything clearer.
And it hurts more. People stay the same. You don't. Waking up is not light, it's shadow. It's seeing the open wound where there was once ignorance. It's realizing you've lived a life you didn't choose. That your beliefs, your goals, your desires weren't yours. They were a borrowed script. From your parents, your teachers, a society sick with noise. And you followed it to the letter. You were a good student. You were obedient. And now, after waking up, the only thing you feel is a huge betrayal with yourself. Because no one told you that consciousness comes with a bill. That looking inside honestly doesn't bring immediate peace, but war. Internal war. War between who you were and who you could be. Jung understood this better than anyone. The process of individuation, that path toward yourself, begins with chaos. And you're in the middle of that chaos. Demotivation is not laziness. It's not apathy. It's mourning for an identity that crumbles. It's the pain of seeing how everything that held you, everything that defined you, no longer makes sense. And the worst part is that you can't go back. Because once you see, you can't stop seeing. You've felt that vertigo, right? That feeling of floating without an anchor, without certainties, without a clear future. And meanwhile, everyone around you keeps dancing the same old choreography, without questioning anything. Like zombies, like actors in a cheap play. And you feel alone. But it's not a physical loneliness. It's an existential loneliness, the deepest of all. Because now you know most don't want to wake up. They prefer to live asleep. Because sleeping is more comfortable. Because it doesn't hurt. But you can't. Because you've already crossed the threshold. And now you're trapped between two worlds. The old one, which no longer serves you, and the new one, which you still don't understand. It's no man's land. It's darkness. It's emptiness. Do you know why you feel so demotivated? Because you're in limbo. Because the motivation that moved you before was artificial. It came from outside, from applause, from achievement, from being someone. But now all that seems absurd to you. And you're right. Jung said that the encounter with oneself inevitably involves descending into the depths of the unconscious. And that's not pretty. It's not spiritual. It's not romantic. It's raw. It's dirty. It's terrifying. There, in that abyss, you face your shadow. Everything you repressed. Everything you hid to fit in. Your rage, your fear, your desire for control, your envy, your arrogance. All that you denied to be accepted. And now it's there, in front of you, without filters, without masks, and you don't know what to do with it. Because no one taught you to integrate it. They taught you to run away, to cover it up with positive phrases, to disguise it with cheap spirituality. But it doesn't work, because the soul cannot be fooled, and you can no longer lie to yourself. So, you stop, you freeze, and you ask yourself, what now? The problem is no one talks about this phase. Everyone talks about awakening as if it were a journey of flowers and butterflies. But it's not. It's more like a free fall without a net. A demolition. An internal fire where everything burns. Demotivation is not a problem. It's a sign. It's your soul telling you the old can no longer continue. It's the silent scream of your being asking for an authentic life. But it doesn't know how. Not yet. And you know what's the worst? You try to explain it. And no one understands. Because you're still surrounded by sleeping people. People who still believe in empty success. In instant happiness. In pleasure as the way. And you don't believe in any of that anymore, so you isolate yourself. You make yourself small. You pretend. You put on a face of normality while inside you're falling apart. Because how do you explain that nothing motivates you anymore because you no longer believe in the game? You can't. Because the asleep hate the awakened. They're uncomfortable with them. They remind them of their own slavery. So they silence you. They ridicule you. They diagnose you. You're depressed. You lack attitude. You're going through a phase. They don't understand anything. But Jung did understand. He knew this emptiness is necessary. That without this fall, there is no rebuilding. That to be born as yourself, you must first die as what you believed you were. And you are dying, not in body, in identity, and it hurts. You're facing your shadow, but also the meaninglessness. Because now you know there is no universal purpose, no infallible guides. No one will come to save you. Neither God, nor gurus, nor ideologies. Only you, and that's scary. Because it implies responsibility. Because you can no longer blame anyone. Because if your life is empty, it's your task to fill it. But with your own, not with what they told you it should be. Motivation, if it comes, will come later. When you accept that emptiness is not the enemy, that emptiness is fertile, it's virgin land, it's space for the new. But first you have to stay there, in the silence, in the darkness, without running away. Awakening is a controlled fire, and you are on fire. But it's necessary, because those flames are burning lies, masks, dependencies, all that you were not. Do you see it now? You're not broken. You're being reborn. But rebirth is never peaceful. It's violent, it's lonely, it's confusing, it's human. That's why Jung said that whoever looks outside dreams, but whoever looks inside awakens. And you are looking inside. Even if you don't like what you see, it's time to stop looking for motivation and start looking for truth, because truth hurts, but it also frees. And in that freedom, in that space, without script, without demands, without pretensions, that's where real life begins. You have to allow yourself to fall, not escape, not dress it up, just fall, just watch everything collapse, and trust that when the time comes, you will build something new, something more yours, more honest, more alive. And no, it won't be immediate, nor linear. There will be days of light and days of shadow, days when you feel strong, and others when you want to disappear. It's normal. It's the process. Motivation will return. But it will be different. It won't be a race to stand out. It will be a silent force, an internal drive, a small flame, but real. And that will be enough, because you will no longer seek approval, nor success, nor recognition. You will seek meaning. You will seek presence. You will seek to be you, even if no one applauds, even if no one understands. That is true awakening. It's not understanding the universe. It's understanding yourself. It's not transcending the ego. It's integrating it. It's not fleeing the world. It's learning to inhabit it without losing yourself in it. And there, right there, in the middle of chaos, that's where your true story begins. Are you willing to write it? And now that you've fallen, that you no longer know who you are or where you're going, another silent enemy arrives. One even more dangerous than demotivation, existential doubt, that subtle voice that doesn't shout but pierces, the one that asks you over and over if all this suffering is worth it, if there really is something at the end of the tunnel, or if you're simply broken forever. Because when you wake up, you can no longer take refuge in easy answers. The superficial no longer satisfies you. You can't just say, everything happens for a reason, and be calm. You can't swallow cliches anymore. No emotional placebo works. Because now you see. You see the absurdity. You see the meaninglessness of an automated existence. You see how everyone pretends to have answers while drowning inside. And then comes the temptation to give up, to close your eyes again, to pretend you saw nothing, to anesthetize consciousness. You've thought about it, I know. You've wanted to go back. You've envied those who still believe in the lie, but you can't. Because awakening has no off button. You can't unlearn what you've already understood, and that leaves you alone with a brutal responsibility to reinvent yourself. Not as an aesthetic project, not as building a new version of you. Number this goes deeper. It's about destroying what you are not and waiting without hurry or shape for the authentic to emerge, for the essential to appear, even if silently. But what if it doesn't appear? What if all that remains is emptiness? Here is where the real challenge begins. Tolerating uncertainty, dwelling in not knowing, enduring the void without filling it with noise. Because in that void, there is you, what remains when everything borrowed disappears. And that's where Jung's psychological alchemy begins, transforming the lead of your shadow into the gold of your consciousness. But that requires something few are willing to do. Look at the wound without running. Look at the trauma. Look at the pain. Not to relive it, but to understand it. Because as long as you run from what hurts you, it will keep chasing you. The unconscious you ignore decides for you. Every choice you make, every relationship you repeat, every self-sabotage comes from that unintegrated part. That's why you feel stuck. That's why it's hard to move. Because parts of you are screaming from the basement of your mind. And until you listen to them, until you name them, they will keep sabotaging your life from the shadows. Because what you don't accept becomes destiny. That's what Jung said. And he was right. But here comes something more disturbing. Something you might not have wanted to accept. Part of you loves your pain. It has identified with it, because for years, it was the only thing that made you feel something. You were shaped by that suffering. And now, even though you say you want to heal, deep down you're afraid to let it go. Because who would you be without it? The identity built around suffering is a comfortable prison, painful, yes, but familiar. And that's why it's so hard to let go, because letting go means entering unknown territory, where you can no longer be the victim, where you can no longer blame your past, where there are no excuses. And that's dizzying, because real freedom always scares, because it forces you to be the author of your life, to make decisions without manuals, to assume consequences, to fail without blaming anyone. That's the burden of the awakened. There are no refuges anymore. There is only truth. But there is also beauty in that. Because when you no longer define yourself by your wound, you begin to see everything with different eyes. You begin to discover that life, although absurd, can have meaning. Not because it comes from outside, but because you create it, as you build, as you choose, as you live. And here comes the most brutal paradox of all. What at first was a curse becomes a blessing. The existential crisis, the one that almost destroys you, gives you the opportunity to be born again. Not as someone perfect, but as someone real, whole, integrated. But no one can do it for you. No one can walk that tunnel for you. There are books, yes, there are guides, there is therapy. But in the end, it all comes down to an intimate decision. Will you keep running away, or will you walk through the fire? Because that fire is not the end. It's the beginning. It's the purge. It's the price of authenticity. Not everyone is willing to pay it. But those who do, live. They don't survive. They live. With scars, yes, but alive. And I won't lie to you. There is no magical moment when everything fits. No sudden enlightenment. What there is a process. Slow, painful, but authentic. Where every step is an act of courage. Where every day you don't give up. You're rebuilding something sacred. Your bond with yourself. because that's what you lost. The bond with your essence, with your inner voice, with your instinct. You lived so long outside yourself, you forgot what it was like to inhabit yourself. Now you're learning, little by little, in silence, without a manual, without guarantees. And that, even if it doesn't seem like it, is a form of heroism. Because while everyone else keeps running to the outside, you have chosen to look within. And even if it hurts you, even if it disorients you, it's transforming you. So don't look to feel motivated again. Look to feel whole. Look to feel aligned with who you are, even if you still don't fully know who you are. Motivation will come. Not as a shout, but as a whisper. Not as an explosion, but as a calm certainty. And when that moment comes, and I promise it will, you won't need anyone to understand you. You won't need to share it. You won't want to prove anything. Because you will have discovered something very few discover. That being you, raw and unadorned, is enough. That's the gift of awakening. Not happiness nor eternal peace, but the possibility to live with truth, to inhabit yourself without disguises, to walk the world without betraying yourself. And that, my friend, is the closest thing to freedom. And here you are. After all this storm, after the fire, the emptiness, the unanswered questions, you're still here. And that, even if it doesn't seem like it, is a silent victory. Because most run away. Most can't stand the mirror. Most turn off the screen when it starts to hurt. But you don't. You've come all the way to the end. And do you know what that means? That something inside you has already changed. Maybe you don't notice it yet, but you felt it. That small vibration. That slight shiver in your chest. That silence loaded with meaning. Because even though you don't have all the answers yet, you're no longer searching like before. Now you search differently, from another place, deeper, more real. What you felt as demotivation, what seemed like an internal failure, was actually a crack. And through that crack, light is entering, not a divine or spectacular light, a subtle light, human, imperfect, but yours, your own, intimate. And here comes the hardest part of all. Awakening doesn't give you power. It demands it. It doesn't give you answers. It gives you awareness. It doesn't give you shortcuts. It takes away your crutches. Because the true journey isn't outward, it's inward. And that journey has no map, no guide, no final destination. It only has one direction: depth. Jung said that whoever doesn't face their shadow projects it onto the world. And maybe that's why the world is the way it is. Because most run from their reflection and blame others for what they can't stand to see in themselves. But you can't keep playing that game. Because you have seen, you have felt, you have awakened. And now you have a choice. You can keep denying everything, go back to routine, pretend this didn't stir anything. Or you can do something braver. Stay in the discomfort. Breathe it. Walk with it. Let it transform you. Because only there, in the uncomfortable, in the painful, in what no one wants to look at, is where the authentic is born. You don't need a perfect life. You need an honest life. A life not built from what others expect of you, but from who you really are. And that really you won't discover in a book, nor a course, nor a video like this. You'll discover it when you dare to live yourself. When you understand that awakening is not reaching the top, but starting to climb. That it's not illumination, it's courage. Courage to look at your ruins and build something beautiful with them. Courage to not seek meaning outside, but create your own from within. Courage to let go of expectations, labels, roles, and finally just be. And now that you're here, having felt all this, I want to leave you with one question. Just one. But it will drill inside you. What would happen if you stopped running away and started listening to yourself? Not to what you think you are, not to the voice they taught you to have, not to the echo of others, to you, to that you who doesn't need to prove anything, to that you who, in silence, has waited years to be heard. And if that question resonates deep in your chest, then this video has fulfilled its purpose. If you've made it this far, if you've felt something real, something yours, then subscribe. Not because you need more content, but because you're choosing a path. The path of depth, of discomfort, of necessity. And if you really want to leave a mark on this conversation, comment down below. I've decided not to run away. Nothing more, nothing less. That phrase will mark the difference between those who only see and those who feel. Thank you for staying. Thank you for not closing your eyes. Thank you for daring to look inside. And now, yes, turn off the screen, close your eyes, and listen to yourself. Because sometimes the greatest act of rebellion is to stay silent with yourself. See you where not everyone dares to look.